I want to thank ODR for the invitation. I'm going to talk a little bit from a theoretical standpoint of my own experience as Auditor General in a fragile country, Liberia. The first issue is, from my experience, is what do you measure? I went to Liberia. Most people probably don't keep good accounts and good records of activities. You don't have a statistical bureau that is fully functioning to say, okay, you have data collection, and you can be able to sit with government officials and come up with what is reasonable and what can be achieved within a short period of time. So the first challenge is, you want result. What are you going to measure and how are you going to measure it? The other challenges that I saw as Auditor General, but particularly working with donor communities, the IMF, the World Bank, the EU, is that everybody wants quick results. You sit around the table, you have a checklist, and everybody have to meet the deadline. So we're not really looking at quality in some instances. And I can give you an example. During the HIPAA process, we said we had to do X, Y, and Z. I, as Auditor General, was looking for the substance of the issues. Both the government and in some cases some international partners were looking at, hey, let's get this thing moving. We had to get it done, we had to get it done. So there's always that tension between what can be done quickly to show results for the taxpayers and donor communities, and what, as Auditor General, believe will be a substantial long-term impact on the country. So we have to look at how do we reconcile that relationship between what is long-term and what is short-term, what can be achieved. The other problems that we call the challenges may be that usually face this dual accountability issue is that who is responsible for what? IMF have their own little indicators. World Bank has their own. EU has their own. I mean, everybody has some measurement yardstick, and they're banging at your door every day and say, okay, you haven't done this, you haven't done that. So in some sense, we as domestic actors are sort of confused as to, okay, what are the priorities here? Do you want me to focus on millennial development goals, or do you want me to focus on getting the millennial challenge accounts, or do you want me to meet World Bank prior actions? Or I mean, it's just a whole lot for a country coming out of war to be able to swallow at one point. So those three things have to be taken into consideration. In terms of accountability, I think I agree with Suzanne. There's always a huge gap between what international partners expect to accomplish within a short time and what we as domestic, particularly the citizenry, expect. I mean, in the case of Liberia, there's always announcement about $1 billion here, $1 billion here, and then the average guy is saying, okay, I don't see it. Okay, and as Auditor General, the difficulty is getting in a multifaceted accountability environment. It's not just dual accountability. How do you get that information? So, are we focusing on an explanation-based result where people explain things away? Or we are actually looking at the substance, the evidence? I'll give you an example just to wrap up before I give you my one or two suggestions. A former First Lady announced at a very big program the enrollment rate of girls in primary school in Liberia. The number quite impressive. And then I went to go audit. I was more interested in, okay, you have enrollment rate, but what is the dropout rate? So now we have a tension. Because what I found is that people enroll at the beginning, but because of poverty, because of different demands in the home, the dropout rate is much, much higher. So in that kind of environment, I went to my president, I said, maybe we shouldn't be focused too much on how many people go to school, which is important, but why don't we focus on how long they stay in school? For example, a typical girl goes to school at 9 o'clock. Normally school gets out around 1:30. But because they have to go and work on a farm, they leave at 10 o'clock. In some cases, they don't even last 3 weeks in school. So you're just looking at enrollment rate. You're actually not getting the real quality picture of what is it that you're trying to measure. So that said, I'm sure you have more questions during the question and answer session. I think the first thing we need to do as domestic actor, international actor, and like Susan said, we need to sit and be realistic. What is achievable, and what we can measure together so that both our populations are aware as to what is expected. The second solution, I think, adding on to what Susan has said, is better coordination among donors. If you don't coordinate, you give me and other domestic actors a lot of difficulties because we are all trying to meet that expectation that you have. So I think, adding on to what Susan said, if we can better communicate through finding out what are the realistic, achievable solutions or objectives that we're trying to measure, and if we can coordinate our activities a little bit more better, I think it will enhance the whole result-driven agenda. Thank you.
Right, thank you.